everyone, and welcome to the Offsite podcast, where we chat all things construction, technology, and everything in between. My name's Carlos, and I spend most of my days talking to construction teams about how they deliver projects.
And I'm Jason, and I build software for construction teams.
So today, we're going to be talking about the resignation of the Spanish Transport Secretary, the acquisition of a company called Easy Power by Bentley, and some safety technology being tested by ferrovial. So first up, the Spanish Transport Secretary. Lots of news on this at the moment. Mainstream news. It's actually hitting things like the BBC, not just our construction channels that we follow. And I guess in a nutshell, the Spanish Transport Secretary, who's also the head of the sort of rail company, or the state-run rail company, has resigned after they've realised that they've spent 200 million euros on dozens of trains, which actually won't fit in a bunch of tunnels in, I think, the northern region of the country.
Unfortunate day in the office.
Yeah, that is a stressful day in the office.
Yeah.
Obviously, complete nightmare. Probably quite easily done. I'd imagine, first off, they probably don't have great asset information, and like obviously they're not going to be nowhere near things like digital twins for infrastructure that's potentially hundreds of years old. So you can imagine there's this big old problem with trying to understand what's out there and get that information in one place to be able to effectively design. But that is a big old fuck up.
I thought for sure you were going to go in and like attack this poor chap and the Spanish, but as someone that's built a bridge deck 20 mil too wide one time, my initial thought was like, what a poor fucker. I guess I kind of want to intuitively defend them, because without knowing anything about the situation, I do like empathize with the fact that I would imagine that the way that in construction specifications are done is can be like a complete mess. I guess it stems from, you get this situation where you'll have like a performance spec that says X and a prescriptive spec that says Y, and they're buried across 5 different documents, and they're kind of, the way we do specifications in construction is just like is a mess. And oftentimes it stems from like the client, I guess, not fully knowing what they want because the design's not developed so much that they can be prescriptive about it. Like I can think of so many previous projects where in order to order a window, you needed to dig out requirements from 4 different documents, one saying one thing, one saying the complete opposite, and then one having a performance specification that was totally incompatible with the 2 things that were in the other places.
Do you think you have empathy, though, because you've been through something like that? Because from an outsider perspective, it's hundreds of millions of pounds worth of taxpayers' money, and it's a train not fitting in a tunnel. It's not like a little design tolerance.
I am making the wild assumption that there isn't somewhere in the specifications that says train shall not be bigger than X, because if it does say that, then I take back everything that I'm saying. But my guess is that there's like a combination of, the train shall be big enough to fit in all the tunnels. Which tunnels? Which ones are we? I can imagine it's a very complicated, like an easy statement that's kind of very, very difficult to validate. Yeah, maybe.
You can imagine, I'd imagine in London, if you were building a bridge and you told TfL it's X meters high, they'll go, nah, no bus is fitting under that. Surely there's someone somewhere that, someone screwed up. Someone wanted a head, and the head of the state rail company has been sacked. Probably had nothing to do with this, but yeah.
The opposite is easier though. Like when you're building the tunnel, it's kind of easier to go, what's the biggest train, or what's the biggest, bus that needs to fit under it. It's actually like kind of hard to do the opposite when you're buying it, especially if you don't have, like, again, TfL is super organized and on it, but like you could easily imagine if you or I ran the transport network there would
that'll go well.
It'd be a different story. It'd be like, send someone to measure all the tunnels, please, to work out what size we should order.
Yeah. Just take your biggest train and run it across all tracks and see if it makes it.
What you should do is get your smallest train and then coat it in some sort of like material, and then just drive it through all the tunnels. Yeah, drive it through all the tunnels.
With like a cutout. This is your...
Yeah, find your smallest one, and then that's it. That's what you should do.
It's good that we're talking about safety later, because that's a good solid theme there.
Next time you go to Spain and you just see this giant white train doing laps around, oh, that's the new polystyrene train that we're doing.
Solid. We should patent that idea.
Polystyrene's even too hard. It'd have to be even softer. So like, I don't know, like kind of like a big marshmallow or something.
It would be like those, those kid toys where you like put your hand on and it pushes the pins out.
Oh, that one like... where you get those videos on TikTok where they're like chopping it and it's really soothing. It'd be that, whatever that is. It's some kind of like sticky sand. Chloe will know what it is. She'll look up and put it in the notes.
Well, yeah, I'm not a TikTok guy.
No, neither am
I. In terms of modern tech now, if we were 100 years into the future, would a digital twin resolve this? Because you've got this.
It would probably take 100 years into you didn't go 5 years into the future, you went 100. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, you can imagine we'll get to the point where like there'll be government-owned digital assets of entire countries or cities. That should stop things like that, right? Because it's like a giant bin model and it will just say, this doesn't work because it's going to clash here, right? That's where we're trying to get to.
100% valid use case. Like that you would imagine that would completely solve the problem. Yes.
Yeah, just
good solution. That or the giant marshmallow thing,
Not
just yet.
Yeah. We actually had a similar issue on Crossrail. I won't name the station, but the station I was working on at the time.
I think you've said
we had this issue where
you said it every episode prior, but put out again.
If they're listening to that video, it's fine. We had an issue where the alignment of the track against the platforms was off, and the track was sort of laid by the design system that was managing the tunnels, but the platforms were the design system of the station, and there was a very slight sort of skew, which meant that the doors were going to clash with the platform, and the train was sort of... So they ended up having to cut back the platforms in certain areas to make sure it could actually fit. I don't know if that was a system-wide thing, but I guess it's the opposite sort of problem, which the trains are fine, but the actual system didn't work. So these things obviously do happen quite a lot.
Yeah, on a project I was thinking of before, we were trying to purchase windows, and there was a very prescriptive makeup of the windows. They were sort of 32 mil thick, 5 sheets of glazing with layers in between. And they had a very prescriptive specification and then a performance specification on thermal performance and blast performance. And we spent months going in circles because you couldn't meet all 3 of these things. And there was no budge. Well, we want all 3 things. So I guess I'm hoping for the sake of the Spanish gentleman that it's more of a situation like that. But I guess the news doesn't care.
Yeah, the news is news. It's You
can just change your name.
Yeah. Right. So next up, Bentley have acquired a company called Easy Power. Easy Power is a tool that allows you to produce like electrical schematic type drawings. I've got some experience in that from a previous M&E based role. And these drawings, they're proper old school. They look like a flow diagram of different systems and how they connect with each other and what that sort of is laid out like. The company is a 40-year-old company, which I don't think anyone's ever heard of.
So the headline is Bentley acquires middle-aged man.
Yeah. So I don't know. I read it and I thought, are they is their business model now so lazy that they go, oh, there's this tiny gap in our portfolio somewhere, so let's just buy a company rather than try and do something that's better, build their own, do something about it. I'm pretty sure AutoCAD have their own version, so maybe they're trying to compete with them. But it seems like an odd one for me. But I guess I'm not familiar enough with the electrical schematic drawing market to know what's going on here.
These, I guess, older or legacy, not legacy, that's too aggressive, but like older construction tech companies that purchase they have a million different brands. Specifically, we happened to reference Bentley last week. It just leads to a completely disconnected, fragmented set of tools that don't talk to each other. And it's like, I think it's everything that's wrong with construction software and technology. But what I don't understand, I can't understand the business logic in purchasing like a piece of software like that. If you are a software company or a technology provider, when you are building products, it takes so much effort to build the first version of something, to invent the solution to the problem, and to find the solution that fits and actually solves the market problem. But once someone's done that, it's so easy to copy it. So I don't understand, why, if you are a company that does have a core competency in building software, you don't just build a solution that is integrated with your tools, unless your core competency isn't building software, it's just buying them and selling them.
Yeah, you touched on there about like connecting it to other apps. There was an article on Bentley that says like the next step is to connect it with these 8 different platforms or something like that, which is crazy. But Bentley, I guess Autodesk, Oracle, they do typically purchase tools rather than build. Do you think part of it is they use resellers? They haven't got their ear to the floor in terms of customers. They're just sort of this massive organization that's just dishing out licenses for tools. Do you think they actually would struggle to build a tool? Because maybe they're not full of sort of construction experts, they're full of salespeople and commercial people and things like that.
I don't know, because some of their tools they do invest time in, like their Synchro product, they invest time in. They do, like, you see case studies all the time where they're making adjustments and improvements based on feedback of customers. We saw a case study recently from, I want to say it was Hinkley or another project. There was another one recently from Melbourne, from the level crossing removal project down there. So they do, but it's hard when you've got, I can't remember what the number was. It was like over 100 products or something that we looked on their website. So some of them are just sitting there on the shelf for the people that still purchase them. And maybe they have a set of like, here are the ones that are the future and we're investing in those. And there's a bunch of other ones that just sit on the shelf. But they need to be investing in it, because if you look at the space, like Autodesk and Procore are not sitting still. They're moving very, very quickly to build a properly connected platform. Yeah. And 120 tools or whatever in different isolated spaces is just not going to cut it. Yeah.
The one, the really crazy one was Aconex being purchased by Oracle. Was it 1.2 billion or something like that?
That was a long time ago as well.
10 years ago now, something like that.
Must be.
But it's not like a crazy complicated product. So to spend that much money on something.
Yeah, but they had users. They were acquiring the users and into the ecosystem. But it's still kind of not connected to their other products very well. You take the other approach where Autodesk purchased PlanGrid, must be, I think it was 2018 or so. So that's 5 odd years ago. And I think they spent 800 million on that acquisition. And it took some time, and PlanGrid was standalone, and I think they still have standalone PlanGrid customers, but it's largely being integrated into the new construction cloud now in kind of a nice way, from what I've played around with. And that is a way easier, I think a way better proposition if I was a construction company than a collection of other platforms, other brands that aren't named, where it's just like a collection of apps that don't talk to each other. Yeah.
Oh, the names on the Bentley website were nuts. It's like, there was like 15 apps and all of them started with the word open. Nobody even recognizes what
Open's
open
good.
Is.
Open's good. It's like I. You stick the letter I in front of something, like the I viewer or the open viewer. Both of those are positive.
Yeah, better off sticking Mac on the end of each word. Everyone will remember then. Right, last up, ferrovial. So they are testing a new safety system It's a proximity system where you stick sort of sensors or little devices on your vests, helmets, plant, all sorts of things that are moving around site. And ultimately, if two of them come too close together, the sort of machine gets shut down and a siren goes off, and there's like a light that's sort of a red light that's very visible. There's a lot of sort of tech in this space. So it's interesting to see Ferrovial, or it's actually a subsidiary of Ferrovial that have sort of built this and are deploying this tool, doing it themselves. For me, the tech seems quite simple, so it probably does make sense for a big company to just build it and install it across their sites rather than maybe pay a supplier or a third party a lot of money continuously each year.
I don't know. Hardware is notoriously difficult. So my initial reaction is like it's a very complicated thing to build. I'm very surprised that they're building something themselves. Hardware is
why is it that, I guess I'm not a specialist in any way of building hardware, but it's literally just a proximity sensor, and when two things get too close together, it pops an alarm off and flashes a light.
But you know how we build software, Carlos, and occasionally, very, very occasionally, something goes wrong. And when it goes wrong, we very, very magically and quickly fix it. We can do that because it's software. Hardware has like a whole bunch of problems. Like, there's a whole amount of testing that needs to be done. You have to also be thinking well into the future, because if you sell or purchase a lot of sensors and then you think of another feature and these aren't compatible with this new feature, you've got a bunch of like stranded hardware assets. There's a whole bunch of additional safety considerations with a piece of hardware than it is with software. Reliability testing. Hardware is like substantively harder to do.
And in this example, the consequence is high if it's wrong. So
exactly.
That's obviously massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know who knows this space really well? We should talk to Tommy from Plinks. Obviously, they have similar type thing, and I think they provide like the network as well as the sensors, because you need a network for these things to run in to feed information.
You need like 5G systems across site and things like that, right?
5G. Well, then I don't know there's a whole thing of like battery life, and then how does charging work. Hardware's hard is the summary.
Agreed.
But like, I guess what's interesting, because you're talking to teams like every day. Yeah, like you said, it is kind of, there are a few of these providers that you see around the place.
Yeah.
Do you see much of it in like use on a project when you're talking to teams?
I haven't seen one particular vendor or sort of service used widespread, but I come across a lot. So there's obviously Plinks that we mentioned. There's a company called SiteZone. There is a company that's actually owned by JCB, or one of the big plant hire companies, and they sort of have their own systems. So every site seems to have the old school reversing sort of sensors and noises for plant, not necessarily proximity to people. The people seems to be the sort of newer addition. And it's a hard one for a site to say no. It's kind of like, who do you go for? Not do you use it, because it's safety. It's quite obviously important. So I'd imagine we're going to see one of these guys really sort of dominate the space. But at the moment, I just keep seeing different companies. And obviously I've just mentioned 3, Ferrovial's a 4th now. So there's no sort of common...
do you like actually see it? Like, I just, not to I guess say it will or won't happen, but I guess state of play at the moment, because I don't know, I haven't seen it myself, but do you see it in use on projects like today, or do you think it's like something that's coming?
No, it's definitely on a bunch of sites that like we work with and I've been to now. So it is being used. I don't think it's trickled down to your £5-10 million projects, but your big public multi-billion pound projects for sure are using this. So
so is it that when you say using it is like, I imagine there's like levels to the complexity. So there's like interactions between people and plant, and you could imagine quite a dumb device quite easily could do that just based on proximity sensing between the two.
The sort of dumber ones are if someone walks near a piece of plant, it goes off.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the human. It's just on the plant, and it's got like a sensor that can see if something's within 2 meters or whatever that is. We actually had that back on Crossrail.
Yeah, I remember that from. Yeah, exactly. I remember that from ages ago.
Yeah.
Because I know that the couple that I've seen, you know, the people are wearing them. They're somewhere in the helmet. And they're tracking kind of a combination of there's a safety aspect like proximity sensor to it, but there's also like I don't know if you have this in football, but over in Australia, like if you watch a rugby league or a rugby union match, they've always got like a sensor on their in their jersey at the back that's tracking how many meters they run, how many tackles they make.
Marathon runners.
Yeah, like on the pitch, so there'll be like how many tackles and how many like things sensing like and getting their like game stats. And I've seen some that are trying to do that on people. So there's like a safety element and like a productivity component to it.
Yeah, BAM are they're sort of working in this space. They're testing something called BAM Cam. So on a few of their sites, they've got they've got these cameras on a 5G network.
You don't want to misspell that searching in Google.
Yeah. They've got a 5G network set up on a couple of sites, and they've got these cameras that are basically picking up people and plant. So it's sort of tagging them and monitoring them. So they want to get to a point where they can confirm, this bit of excavation, we had 2 pieces of plant and 6 people working for X hours and things like that. But I think they're trying to sort of build in safety to that too, so they can sort of monitor that and maybe have like a control room or control hub that can see sort of everything moving in real time. So
that's got to be difficult with a site that's constantly changing, like line of sight. It's the reaction someone parks
time
a machine. Someone parks in a machine in the wrong spot, and all of a sudden you can't see half the site. Or
yeah. And just the volume of cameras. Imagine a high-speed to a highways job. You just yeah.
Just like you're in like a 10-meter channel for 4 kilometers. Like, what do you do?
Yeah. But we'll see how they go in that space. I'll see if they want to rename it. Awesome. Right.
Keep it.
That's all we've got time for today. So as always, thank you very much for listening.
The greatest technology. Yeah. Thank you very much. I should have just said thank you very much. End of. I won't say it.